So if you ever opened your Google Ads account and thought, this looks amazing, the leads are flowing, the CPA is solid, volume is up, everything on the dashboard says you're doing a great job. And then you get that email from your client that says, hey, we haven't got a good lead in weeks. What's going on? That happened to me recently, and the scary part wasn't the bad leads. The scary part was that nothing in the dashboard looked wrong. So in this video, I'm going to show you what actually causes that disconnect, how to catch it before it gets bad, and a simple 3-step system to pull the account back before it actually spirals out of control. By the end of this, you'll have what I call the drift control system. It's 3 steps I use to catch lead quality problems early, stop Google from chasing cheap conversions, and push budget back towards high intent traffic. I'm going to walk you through this using one real scenario, no client names, no industry, just the mechanics. This way you can go ahead and apply it to pretty much any service business account you're working on. So most people, when an account starts to underperform, they jump to the usual suspects. Competition went up, ads went stale, budget changed, or my personal favorite, Google randomly changed something, and that does happen. And look, sometimes those things matter, but what I see more often is something a lot quieter than that. The account drifts. What I mean is Google gradually starts shifting spend towards traffic that's easier to convert, not traffic that's actually higher quality. And when your conversion tracking can't tell the difference between a great lead and a junk lead, Google learns the wrong lessons. It'll see a conversion come in and it'll say, more of those please, and it starts to double down on whatever produced it, even if that conversion was someone who is just never going to become a customer. So this isn't an ad problem. This is actually a signal problem. So here's what I found when I dug into the account. There were a handful of phrase match keywords, not broad match, phrase match. And for months, they were basically harmless. They sat in the background spending maybe 2 to 5% of the total budget. Not a big deal. But over time, and this is the sneaky part, the account migrated. When I pulled the numbers this month, those same phrase match keywords were eating around 70% of the budget. That's 70%. That alone is a massive red flag. So then I went into search terms to see what was actually triggering those keywords. And that's where things got ugly. The account was now showing for competitor searches, cheap intent queries, people looking for completely different companies, and low value searches that still technically led to a form fill or a phone call. So on paper, conversions were flowing. The CPA looked great, but in reality, lead quality had completely collapsed. And that's the thing. If you're only looking at the dashboard, you'd never know. You'd think the account was performing better than ever. Now, a lot of people hear this and say, well, yeah, phrase match is just cheaper, or broad match always gets cheaper clicks. I don't think it works like that. The match type itself isn't magically cheaper. What's cheaper is low intent traffic. And the reason it's cheaper is because fewer advertisers are competing for those clicks. No one's fighting over these cheap search terms. So yes, you might see lower CPCs. You might see lower CPA. But that's often because the account has slid into easier conversions, not better customers. And that is the massive difference. In my experience, this kind of drift usually happens when 3 forces stack on top of each other. The first force is loose intent. Phrase match opens the door wider than most people realize. It invites in searches you would never pick if you had to write out the exact keyword for yourself. Some of those searches are fine, but some of those are garbage, and phrase match doesn't know the difference. The second force is basic conversion signals. Most companies are tracking things like form submission, phone calls, maybe a booking, and those are fine actions to track, but those actions don't equal revenue. A form fill from someone looking for the cheapest option and a form fill from your ideal customer look exactly the same to Google. It sees a conversion and says, great, do more of that, even if that lead was terrible. And the third force that kind of amplifies this is the target CPA pressure. If you're running target CPA or even max conversions, you're literally telling Google, find me conversions at this price or at the cheapest price possible. And the easiest way for Google to hit that number isn't always better targeting. A lot of the time, it's cheaper intent. So the system starts optimizing towards whatever's producing the cheapest conversions. And if phrase match is the easiest path to cheap conversions, Google will lean on it harder and harder and harder. That's the drift. The question is, how do you actually stop this without blowing up your performance? Here's what I use. I call it the drift control system. 3 steps. Detect, contain, and restrain. So step 1 is to detect. You detect drift with 3 quick checks. First, spend concentration. Are 1 to 3 keywords or 1 to 2 ad groups suddenly eating most of the budget? If something that used to spend 5% is now spending 50 or 60 or 70% or more, that's your first red flag. The second one is search term contamination. Go into the search terms report. Are you seeing more competitor searches, cheap intent queries, or people looking for the wrong company? So if search terms are getting messier over time, that's flag number 2. Third, the quality mismatch. Are conversions going up, but the client is telling you that quality is going down? The gap between what the dashboard says and what the business is experiencing, that's the confirmation. If you've got all 3 of those, you're not dealing with a random dip. You're dealing with drift. So step 2, we got to contain this. So contain means you stop Google from feeding signals. You've got a couple options depending on how aggressive you want to be. Option A, and this is the cleanest move, you pull back or pause the phrase match term that are driving the drift, and you force budget back toward the exact match or higher intent keywords. Simple, direct, and it does work. Option B, if you're nervous about losing volume, which you might be, and for good reason, you separate your exact match and your phrase match keywords into different ad groups. Then you tighten your target CPA on the phrase match group and loosen it on the exact match group. What you're doing is making it harder for the account to win with cheap conversions and easier for it to win with high intent traffic. Now, I know people will say don't split campaigns by match type, and I actually agree with that as a general rule, but this isn't about organization. This is a temporary control move to correct drift. Once you've stabilized, you can restructure. So in step 3, we're going to retrain, and this is a step that most people skip, and it's exactly why the problem keeps coming back. If phrase match found search terms that actually converted and actually made business sense, then great. That's valuable, but you don't want to leave those terms living inside phrase match forever, because phrase match is going to keep dragging in junk alongside them. So here's what you do. Go into your search terms, find the ones that converted and the ones that you actually want as customers, like the search terms that would make sense for a customer to come in on, and add those back into the account as exact match keyword. That's you taking back that control. You're taking the value that phrase match discovered, but you remove the chaos that phrase match introduced. And if you really want to level this up, and this is more of a longer term play, work on improving your conversion quality signals. That could mean offline conversions, and that is going to make a really big difference in what we're talking about today. Essentially, you're introducing only good leads into your system, because the real fix long term isn't just restructuring keywords. It's about giving Google better feedback than just here's a form submission, here's a phone call. One more thing, if the account is small and lead quality has completely fallen apart, like it's off the rails, sometimes you need a hard reset. In those cases, it can make sense to temporarily move away from automated bidding, push strong manual bids on your known good exact match terms. Stabilize lead quality first and then reintroduce automation once things are back on track. So I would be careful with this, especially on a bigger account, because it can kind of throw things into a learning phase, and putting things back on manual bidding can be a huge change to your account. So really be careful and really think this through if you're going to do a change from automated bidding to manual bidding. If you don't have a whole lot of anything happening right now and you're just not getting any leads, then there's really no harm, no foul in this case. So I would go ahead and switch it. But if you have a lot of leads and a huge history, be careful just making that switch. So if you're watching this because your account looked good on paper, but the leads feel worse and worse, here's the real takeaway. Google doesn't optimize for leads quality. It optimizes for whatever signals you give it. So phrase match didn't necessarily break your account. Target CPA didn't break your account. Your conversion tracking didn't break your account. But the combination of all 3 can drift the account towards cheap conversions unless you're actively controlling it. That's what the drift control system is for. Detect the shift early, contain it before it eats the budget, and restrain the account by pulling good terms into the exact match and improving your signals. So if you found this video helpful, there's going to be more videos like this to come. So hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video.